Okay, so I'm working on the MX5. I have it jacked up in the air. So I'm just going to go over the tools that you're going to need to take the motor out from the bottom. There's also another way you could take the transmission off separately from the engine, and then you could, obviously you got to take the hood off, but some people wiggle it out the top. I've heard this is a giant pain in the butt, and it's, even though taking a motor out is always a giant pain in the butt, taking it out from the bottom, so dropping the whole subframe, the suspension, is way easier to do. And I'm going to show you why it's way easier to do. But first, let me show you the tools that you're going to need. Obviously, bare minimum, you need 4 jack stands. I think you need 2 jacks. As far as hand tools and power tools, you don't need power tools at all. You can certainly do this without them. They do make life easier. But to get the air box out, the battery tray out, and the AC compressor, and a couple other things, these are the tools I needed. A hammer, flathead screwdriver, some pliers, needle nose and normal. As far as sockets go, I have a 12 millimeter 1/4 inch 12 on an extension, because you need a different length to get the AC compressor off. I'll go over that in a minute. You don't have to. You could certainly drop that with the subframe. However, I'm trying to save the coolant that is in the AC system, so I don't want to discharge it if I don't have to. So you need a 1/4 inch extension with a regular 12, and then you need a deep socket 12 millimeter 1/4 inch. Also, you're gonna need 3/8 inch, or you can do 1/4 inch if you want to, but you just get more leverage with this. And you're gonna need a 12 for the bottom bolts on the AC compressor. 3/8, because this is not going to give you enough leverage to get those bolts off, because they're really kind of a giant pain in the butt. You're going to need 12 millimeter for various different things for the steering shaft. You're going to need a 10 millimeter to get the battery tray out and the air box out. For underneath the chassis, you need a 21 millimeter. You need a 19 millimeter. And a 17 millimeter. So this is going to be for your subframe. So let me show you what I've gotten done so far. Okay, so what you need the 10 millimeters are for, these bolts right here. And as you're taking things off and you're removing things, put these things back on, because you're just going to save a lot of time trying to find these bolts later. So you're going to need 10 millimeter for that, and also 10 millimeter for your battery tray. Obviously, you got to disconnect your battery cables. You need 10 millimeters for right here. That's to your wiring harness. Everything is kind of up here, but you can see where those would go. You got a plug right here, a plug right there that comes out. And basically, you can take the whole harness for the engine, put it on top, drop the subframe down, and it comes with it. So you have a couple coolant lines you have to do. This is power steering. You have a banjo bolt up here that I haven't taken off, but you have to take that off first. Actually, you don't have to. It's going to come down with the engine. So I'm actually going to leave that down, because the whole steering rack comes down. There's a coolant, this coolant hose right here. There's one right above it, but you can leave that there and disconnect it right here. You have your brake booster line. Got to disconnect that. Your AC compressor. So, like I said, I didn't want to discharge the system if I didn't have to. I heard a couple people just unbolt this and then they leave it in the car, basically. So I got to drop the subframe a little bit, see if I can finagle this around this throttle body. I might have to take that off. That's to be determined. Also, you got your fuel line. You just take off and put to the side. Over here, you got another coolant line, and then you have another one right there. That's basically for the heater hose. And let me go underneath the car and show you what we have to do there. Okay, so I'm underneath the vehicle right now. A couple things that you're going to need to do. If you haven't done so, remove your wheels. you need to disconnect the calipers and secure them in a position where they are not hanging down, putting strain on the brake lines themselves. So secure them with zip ties or whatever. Then once you've done that, and moving down, make sure your engine oil is drained along with your transmission fluid, your exhaust coming off your header. There's two 14mm bolts. Those need to be undone. And then moving down, this brace right here needs to be removed. So you can drop everything down. Then you have this brace that needs to be removed. You got a couple braces to remove on the body. Once you have that removed, there's this long beam that runs on from the transmission down to the differential. Those are 21mm bolts. As you can see, they're right there connected to the transmission, and then they're connected up there. That also runs down to the differential. So once you have those off, go down the differential. It's the same sequence, 21mm, 4 bolts. Take those off. Once you do that, some light over here, you will expose, you'll be able to get to the drive shaft. Now, the drive shaft, you just unbolt it from the differential, and that will slide right out. Then, if everything goes well, you'll be ready to drop your subframe. So let me get to work, and I will let you know if I have any hiccups that you could hopefully prevent when you're doing it. Okay, this is just a little bit of an update from the first portion of this video. That's a couple days later, and I've lost my voice, so excuse that. I mentioned I wanted to get the AC compressor out of the way. So to move that, there's a 10mm nut that holds this bracket to the firewall. I then proceeded to zip tie the line to the battery or the fuse panel box. Just keep it out of the way. The only thing I might have to do is remove that elbow, so when it drops down, it doesn't hit that. But I might be able to finagle it so I don't have to. Also, there was a hook here that was already hooked to this motor. I'm not sure if generally there's one in the back, but there wasn't. So I took this off the donor motor and I put it in the back over here. As you can see, it's kind of right there. I had to disconnect these bolts. This one, there's one in the back, so you can put this over there. That way you can have something to lower the engine down with. This is just an old seat belt, but these are 13mm bolts. Also, I forgot to mention, if you're a manual transmission, make sure you disconnect your slave cylinder for the transmission, your clutch line. I also removed the throttle body just for extra clearance, just in case. So that's pretty much it. So this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to probably have to take the hood off, but it's going to hook up the hoist to this. Also, don't forget to undo your struts. Those are 14mm bolts, by the way. And I'm just going to I'm going to put tension on this, undo the subframe, and it's going to go down. Okay, I'm ready to lower everything down. So as you can see, I have my hoist set up to that seatbelt and those two hooks. I also have a jack underneath the car right there, and I have a piece of wood on the subframe itself. And then in the back, I have another jack supporting the transmission. So to get the subframe off, you have to do this on both sides. Obviously, you have to disconnect the brake line. There's one right there and one right there. They're 12mm bolts. And I just placed it on a bucket. So, whatever easiest for you, you can do. But as you can see, you have a nut right there. And you have another one right there. Those are 19mm. Then if you go underneath the car, you have this bolt right here that connects to your frame rail, and then this one right here. So disconnect all these bolts, and then you do it on the opposite side, and then you slowly coordinate, dropping everything down. So I'll videotape that, but just to kind of show you guys where you need to be unbolting stuff. Alrighty, let's get to it. Okay, so I noticed that on the passenger side, the stud is so long that a deep socket won't fit. So I use a 3/4 inch wrench, and then I have a longer wrench. And so you kind of see, if you do this, it gives you more leverage, and you can eventually move it like that, and slowly, surely it will start coming loose. Just a little tip. Okay, so everything is pretty much on the ground. I have the transmission sitting on a dolly. Got a piece of wood on those two studs right there. That jack is stuck at the moment, but I'm gonna get that out. A snag that I ran into that I did not do. There's this sensor right here that plugs in right there. Disconnect that from both sides. Also, I thought I got all the coolant hoses. I was wrong. You have this hose you have to disconnect, and then there's this bracket that attaches to the subframe itself. Two 10 millimeter bolts. It's easier to undo that. It's still kind of hung up on the steering shaft. It's not putting pressure on it. It's you can move it pretty easily, but that's got to be addressed right there. And then if you come along to this side, this hose right here, it's a power steering hose that has to be disconnected, and it goes right there. You can kind of see. But here's the other sensor that I did not disconnect. So it's pretty straightforward. You just have to kind of wiggle it. I had to use the hoist and the jacks and sync to get it on the floor, but fairly simple. The only thing now I have to do, as you can see, I cannot clear the engine out, so I'm gonna have to lift the front of the car up high. I'm sure if you've done any research about this, you've heard the same thing. I'm basically gonna put a strap on this and use my engine hoist to hoist the car up in the air, and then I could bring the motor out either in the front of the car or out the side. I'm probably gonna do it out the side because that's where the most room is, right there. So I will film that at a different time. I'm going to call this a day. Okay, so obviously I did not take off my front bumper. Some people do that during this whole process, and then they lift the front of the vehicle up with the bumper support. I didn't feel like taking that off, so what I did was I took a ratchet strap. I basically went through the strut tower, wrapped it around the frame, and then over to the other side through the wheel well, and came back up on the other side through the strut tower, and then I just tied a knot, and then I'm going to lift it up like this. So everything is being lifted by the frame rails, and I was originally going to do it by this member here, but I figured this is being held on by spot welds, and it's probably just safer to do it on the frame rails itself. So let me film this process so you can see how it's done. Okay, so here's another snag that you'll probably run into if you do it the way I did it. So basically, I underestimated how high I had to get the car up off the ground. This is where working in your garage and jack stands are, it makes it a little difficult. So as you can see, I used a very various boards to prop up the jack stand, and I finally got high enough, so light shining, but yeah, I should be able to get everything out from underneath here. I'm just gonna slide it out, but first I have to lower this down gently so the jack stands will hold up the car, and then I can get the hoist out, and then I can just roll the sucker out. So let me do that really quick. Okay, and that is a wrap for removing an engine from an NC MX5 from the bottom. You can do it from the top also, but I hear it's a giant pain in the butt. This is also a giant pain in the butt, just to let you know. This took me approximately 4 hours in total work time, and this is the first time I've ever done this. So the next go around will be a lot smoother, a lot faster. However, you know, the first time you do something, it's never 100% perfect. You learn a lot of things along the way. That's why I'm documenting this. So maybe you can avoid those snags that I came up with. But it's a pretty straightforward process. You just have to be very careful and meticulous about your hoses and your electrical connections. But everything pretty much drops out of the engine. So I'm not going to go over bolting this to an engine stand. That should be pretty self-explanatory. If you can get to this point, you can certainly do that. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully it helped.